Recently, VivziePop and Brandon Rogers have been doing interviews over on another channel called The Lightweights Podcast. There's a lot of interesting bits to dissect from there, but most important is that VivziePop said we're going to be learning more about Stella soon, probably getting a bit of a backstory for her. So let's look at what she said and how that should play out in the show. My name is Deepcut, hit that subscribe button, and welcome to hell.
Will we get to see Stella's background, or will she just remain the villain?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so you know what's fun about Stella? Short answer, yes. We do get into her backstory. Whether or not it's soon, I definitely can't say, but we do. Because I think her position is really interesting. And what I like about Stella is she is a villain, and she's a pretty bad person, but she does have a perspective. And you know what's funny? Most people have kind of seen it. You know, where, you know, she was also in this arranged marriage and she didn't ask for it either. And I think that that's a valid, you know, perspective. So yes, we do explore it, and I'm really excited for that because I do think it's a plot point, and the whole Goetic family to me is such a, like, we haven't gotten too into it yet. We've only seen it from Stolas' perspective, and there's a whole nother side. Like, there's her side, there's Andreus, there's the kings, there's other characters. We meet, he's already been revealed, so it's not a spoiler. We meet a new Goetic character named Vago and a bunch of other characters, and I'm really excited as we get further in the show that side of the hellborn, like, world is going to be explored, because it's really been interesting to, like, figure out. And that is part of it, is like her character and her position in this Goetic society, and, you know, why it matters so much to her. So yes, I personally always want to explore the characters.
Now, me personally, I love Stella as more of a one-note flat villain. VivziePop mentions that there is usually some sort of reason people are this way, but I think that's not always true, and can be a bit of a writer's romanticization. Some people are just flat and shallow and essentially evil, and that's actually really terrifying. But in a story, if you aren't exploring the madness of evil, you generally want to explore the motive. And as VivziePop says later in the interview, Stella is currently a Cruella de Vil type character who is just evil and just has her goals for no real reason, and that's really fun, but she wants Stella to evolve beyond that. With that in mind, she says we should be getting a backstory that sheds light on why. In the story already, Stella has been shown to be really aggressive, even as a child. And it's not like Stolas is the only Goetia who could have hated his life in the royal classes. That being said, we won't be getting the answer to Stella's madness this season, it would seem, as VivziePop said that we would learn eventually, but not necessarily that soon. To give context, VivziePop also explained that her plan for the story of Helluva Boss is 50 episodes, with it being confirmed before that there would be a 4-season plan. Season 1 and 2 combined will have 20 episodes once it's finished airing, which means, as VivziePop explains in her interview, there will be longer seasons coming, probably 15 episodes each. To see all this information for yourself, I've included a link in the pinned comment down below. For those who still haven't gone and watched it for themselves, she also talks about how every major character will be explored before the series ends, with an emphasis in the interview on characters like Andreus, Stella, and Vago. Now, from an earlier Patreon Q&A session that we are allowed to share with the public, it was explained that Season 2 will wrap up a major story arc, but that Seasons 3 and 4 will go on to focus on other stories that had been started in the show. VivziePop says she has big plans for Seasons 3 and 4, calling them very solid arcs, so I imagine that while this is true, the plot that gets wrapped up this season will progress into something a bit bigger. Basically, we aren't going to see the conclusion of any sort of Stolas or Goetia plot, I think, but whatever does get concluded will allow that plot to be expanded upon in one way or another in future seasons. With that in mind, as far as plots that could be resolved go, I think it will be the end of Blitz and Stolas' relationship drama as it currently stands. I think by the end of the season, we will get something of a more official relationship between the two, and Season 3 and 4 will explore them actually being together in that context. This would make the show equal seasons about the build-up to a proper relationship, and equal seasons exploring that dynamic, though obviously with more episodes in Seasons 3 and 4. While Stella and Andreas will likely have some big conclusion in the season finale this year, but while exploring that dynamic, I don't think that Andreas and Stella will end their plans for Stolas, and those, among many other plots Helluva Boss juggles, will continue to move forward in the following seasons. Now, the Goetia are royals, and the members get to live extravagant lives, even at the bottom of the totem pole. Not every demon in the family is a powerful elite in the real-life demonic writings, but even the sister of a low-level marquis such as Stella gets to live in abundance and prosperity. However, Stolas shows that this doesn't mean a happy life, as the demons need the same things that humans need in their childhood. They need to be loved by their parents and have happy and wholesome times, but that is probably not common in the Goetia despite their wealth. One thing Stolas is believed to have had, however, is a friendship with Vago. This is a new Goetia member we can see in the trailer who asks where Stolas is and says they must summon him. This looks to be during an important meeting that all the royal elites are at, and while I initially interpreted him as antagonistic, he is actually suggesting the opposite of what Andreas wants, with Andreas telling Vago to calm down when he asks where Stolas is. Andreas is obviously against Stolas. His sister Stella even tried to have him killed, and Andreas wants to make sure that they inherit his fortune if he dies instead of Octavia. With that in mind, a lot of people have been theorizing that Vago is actually a friend of Stolas's, someone looking out for him and trying to make sure he's there for the important meeting. I've heard that Vivzipop confirmed that they are close, perhaps even brothers, but I have yet to see that tweet. Regardless of their relationship, it would make sense that Stolas had someone in the Goetia who cares about him, who is looking out for Stolas the way Stolas would look out for someone else. I've seen some people speculate that Vago is what kept Stolas sane, what kept him kind, but if that is the case, the same was not true for Stella. Stella is an interesting character because she seems to actually have someone looking out for her. Andreas has a lot to gain from taking down Stolas, but none of that had presented itself when Andreas' name was invoked by Stella. Andreas is only a marquis, not someone who even has authority over Stolas, who is a prince, and yet his name is clearly important to Stella and Stolas' relationship. Andreas, we have since learned, is rather sneaky. When he finds out that Stella is trying to have Stolas assassinated, he is on board for this, but he wants to up the stakes. He wants to make it so that Stella inherits Stolas' fortune, and likely he wants the opportunity to ascend to Stolas' position in the Goetia. But for either of these things to happen, something has to be done about Octavia, who he will presumably have killed, or elsewise removed from the Goetia before she has the chance to assume the role that Stolas currently fills. It is in the moment where he starts to come up with this plan, whatever it may be, that we see an interesting side to Andreas. Thus far, it seems that he loves his sister. He loves to get involved in her petty personal fights and have an outlet for his own anger, with someone to direct his wrath at while he still makes himself feel extra good because he's helping her. He does seem to love Stella, but not enough to care about her daughter, it would seem, and when Stella doesn't understand what Andreas has planned, he basically calls her stupid while saying that they're lucky that she is pretty. Whether or not Andreas feels love is beside the point, I guess, but it would seem that he and Stella do have a loving relationship, one that she sees as loving even if he ultimately uses her, and unfortunately, that seems to be what happens to Stella her entire life. From the get-go, Stella would have lived a life similar to Stolas, one where her parents only come in for special occasions and she's just being raised by a cold and distant servant. The only thing Stella would have that Stolas didn't would be a close relationship with a live-in brother. Stella, unlike Stolas, has no official role in the Goetia. She's not one of the real-life 72 demons that Stolas or Andreas is modeled after, as we said. While daughters can ascend to a higher role in the Goetia, such as Octavia if Stolas passes away, Stella has no indication of having that kind of destiny. Her job is just to help provide the cautionary heir to Stolas, not being one herself. Stolas already feels like he is used by the Goetia to fulfill this role, but Stella doesn't even have this sort of special role and important duties that come with a certain kind of power the way that Stolas does. She was born simply to make sure that someone else was born, and everything she has been made to do in life along the way, marrying Stolas or smiling for the camera, all of it is just a reminder that she exists to serve despite being some sort of royal. From her earliest photos, we can see she is choking her pets. We can see that she is angry with the world that she is born into. And this was a time when she actually got to live with someone who seemed to care about her as a child, her own brother. One thing Vivziepop discusses in her interview is the idea of exploring a character like Bojack's mother from BoJack Horseman. This was a character who was presented as cruel for no reason in early seasons, but who later had an episode showing a dramatic story that shaped her into the cold woman she became. One thing that Vivziepop mentions in the interview is that Stella didn't choose this relationship either, and that is very true. It's not that I didn't know this before, but because of the way Hell is and the way Stella acts, a lot of us assume that she and the greater culture of Hell don't really care about cheating or infidelity. When she is first heard screaming at Stolas about it in episode 2 of season 1, she makes it out like the issue is that they did it in her home, in their marital bed. With all of this in mind, it's possible that Stella's anger is very real, not because she is mad that Stolas cheated, but because she is mad that Stolas, in her eyes, is the man who already gets everything that he wants, things that perhaps she had been denied herself. With all of this information, I think it's possible that Stella had fallen in love at a younger age, that there was a man that she had feelings for and who she wanted to marry. It would be fitting for Stella to get so angry because she was denying herself an affair with someone because of her role in the Goetia. And after Stolas finally had his own affair with Stolas, he just ended up rubbing it in her face. Yes, Stella had already been shown to be a horrifying and at best distant wife before that, treating Stolas like garbage at the party, but whatever happens, it's not supposed to make her the hero and Stolas the villain, it's just supposed to humanize her. There is nothing that can or should be done to make it so that Stella's behavior is justified by the audience, but like with Blitz and Stolas' relationship, it would be very interesting to see that both her and Stolas have different levels of wrongness, both coming from a situation that unfortunately shaped them to be toxic towards each other in this dynamic. The big question, of course, is why would Stella deny herself this sort of relationship? She is pretty evil, it seems, and goes for whatever she wants, but she is also able to be manipulated, particularly by Andreas, it would seem. While Andreas seems like a loving figure, as we have said, he does seem ultimately happy to use Stella for his benefit, and it wouldn't surprise me if he had somehow sabotaged the only relationship Stella was interested in order to keep her more in line with his plans for her in the Goetia, to help him stay in a good light with other Goetia royals by making sure that she marries into the higher classes with Stolas. Whatever tragedy Stella faced in her childhood, the greatest twist of the knife in Stella's back could only come from someone like Andreas, the one parading around as if he is doing everything for her benefit, only to have shaped her miserable life for his benefit. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Stella's story is very vague, but maybe some of you have noticed details that I have missed. See you guys next time.